Hello everyone, in this video we are going to see about activity and activity coefficient. This is a term which is used in electrochemistry. Even in thermodynamics we have similar terms for referring to gases, like we have pressure and fugacity. Whenever we talk about an ideal solution, for gases, like ideal gases, if it is an ideal gas we refer it by the term pressure. There is going to be real gases are going to deviate from ideal behavior. So in case of real gas, the pressure term is replaced by the term called as fugacity. Similar to this, we have two kinds of solutions. One is called as the ideal solution, which obeys Raoult's law basically. So if an ideal solution is there, we use the term concentration. Okay, similar to this, we have another kind of solution which deviates from this ideal behavior, which we call it as a real solution. Now what are real solutions? Real solutions are solutions which do not obey those Raoult's law, okay, those conditions under which ideal solution exists. So in those cases we call the same concentration term as activity. So just like how you have fugacity, then fugacity coefficient, the same case is used in solutions. We call it as activity and activity coefficient. So basically, if I have to give you a simple definition of what this means, activity or activity coefficient, it basically means the deviation. Okay, the deviation of a solution from ideal behavior. Deviation of a solution from ideal behavior is called as activity. It actually measures the extent of deviation. Okay, the extent of deviation is measured. Now let's take a simple example to understand this. Okay, now let's say I have a beaker. Okay, let's take two conditions. In the first condition, I have a beaker in which I am taking NaCl solution. Usually whenever we talk about activity, we talk in terms of molality. Okay, in electrochemistry we prefer to talk in terms of molality than molarity. Now what is the difference? Molality is represented by small m. Molality is nothing but number of moles of solute dissolved in 1 kg of the solution. Okay, in 1 kg of solution. So when we talk about molality, it is going to be in kilograms. The solution is measured in kilograms. Similarly, we have another term which is called as molarity. In case of molarity, we call it as number of moles of solute dissolved in 1 liter of solution. So that is the difference. So we usually prefer to call in terms of molality than molarity. Okay, so everywhere I'll be using the term molality. Now let's say I have NaCl solution. Okay, I'm telling you I have 0.1 molal. Okay, we call it as molal. When we put it as small m, we call it as molar. So I'm telling I have 0.1 molal NaCl solution. Okay, now in case of another situation, okay, I'm taking another situation wherein I'm using another beaker. In this beaker also I have NaCl solution, but now I'm having 2 molal. Okay, I'm having 2 molal NaCl solution. Now basically you might be able to find the difference between the two, right? Now this means you have only 0.1 moles of NaCl dissolved in 1 kg of water. Okay, here you have 2 moles of NaCl but dissolved in the same 1 kg of water. Now then we can say here the number of moles is less, right? So you call it as low concentration, or you say this is a dilute solution. Whereas here if you see the number of moles is higher, so you call it as highly concentrated solution, high concentration, so you call it as concentrated solution. These are the two pictures I am taking. Now it is obvious fact that if you have number of moles are less, okay, this is going to, NaCl is ionic, right? So it will split into Na plus and Cl minus in the solution. Now in the first case the number of cations and anions is going to be less. Why? Because I have taken fewer moles of NaCl, whereas in the second case there is going to be a lot of cation and there is also going to be a lot of anion because my concentration is very high. Okay, so this is the two scenario. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to measure the current. Okay, I'm going to pass electrodes through this and I'm going to measure the current. So let's say I'm passing a wire connected to a battery. So I have the positive terminal and the negative terminal, which is the anode and cathode. In this case also I'm doing the same thing. Okay, I'm connecting. Now what would one expect? One would expect, see, I'm also connecting an ammeter. Okay, over here I'm connecting an ammeter to measure the current. the amount of current that is generated. So what would anyone expect is that since this solution, no, the second solution, since it is concentrated, the current that is going to be produced in the second case should be higher because there is a lot of ions. So if there is a lot of ions, there is going to be more amount of electricity generated. Whereas in the first case, one would expect the current that is produced should be lesser. But when you do the experiment and when you find it out for yourself, I'll tell you just a simple figure, okay, to understand. In the first case, I'm getting 0.1 ampere of current, okay. This ammeter shows deflection. I'm measuring the current, I'm measuring it as 0.1 ampere. Now in the second case, to my surprise, I'm again observing 0.1 ampere. Now which means even though the solution is highly concentrated, even though the solution has a lot of ions, it is giving the same current as that of the solution, right? It is giving the same current as that of the solution. Then there is some mistake. Now I am repeating the experiment again. I am getting the same value, which means the concentrated solution is not producing the current. It is not producing the current that it is supposed to produce. It's obvious, right? If this is going to give you 0.1 ampere, then definitely the value for the second solution, this is the second solution, definitely the value should be higher than this, okay? It can never be equal to this, but it is not producing the required results. Now, where is the problem? Now this problem can be addressed, okay, if we understand the simple concept. What is that simple concept? See here, no, you have a lot of cation and anion. Now we know that even though this is dissociated, okay, even though cations and anions, they get dissociated, even then there is going to be a strong electrostatic force of attraction between the cation and anion. Over here there is going to be a strong force of attraction between the cation and anion. Just imagine if a solution has to produce current, okay, if I have two terminals, I have a solution, I have a cation and anion. What is the necessary criteria for the current to be produced? The cation should move towards the negative terminal and the anions should move towards the positive terminal. That is when the current is going to be produced. If they both are going to get attracted among one another, they are not going to show any ionic mobility, right? They are not going to be mobile. They are going to be in the same place. So ionic mobility is hindered. Why is ionic mobility hindered? It is because of the strong force of attraction between cation and anion. Now you might ask, like, isn't the same kind of attraction present in the first case? Of course it is present, but you see the solution is dilute, which means if there is a cation and there is an anion, the solution is dilute, which means there is a lot of water. There is a lot of water that is present. So now when you have a lot of water molecules in between, just imagine like there is a lot of water molecule. Now this connection, no, this connection is going to be weak. So automatically, since the connection between this cation and anion is weak, the cation can easily move towards the cathode and anion can easily move towards the anode. And in this first case, there is going to be the expected results are obtained in the first case. Now, why the expected results are obtained? Because in the first case, there is no electrostatic force of attraction, no strong force of attraction, because there is a lot of water molecules in your solution and it is now producing the expected results, okay. So in the second case, there is no expected results produced, whereas in the first case, I can tell you that produces the expected results. Now with this knowledge, we can categorize the solution into ideal and non-ideal. How can we differentiate it? See, let's take the second case, okay. In the second case, we have 2 moles of NaCl which has to actually produce a lot of current, but it is producing only 0.1 ampere. Then what can I tell you? I can tell like 2 moles of NaCl is actually behaving like 0.1 moles, right? 2 moles is behaving like 0.1 moles. Why? Because 0.1 moles is also producing the same current. 2 molar solution is also producing the same current. So I can write it as, okay, I can write it as 2 molar, or let's simplify it as 2 moles. 2 moles is equal to 0.1 mole. Why am I telling it like this? Because 2 molar solution is behaving like 0.1 mole. Now I require a standard. If 2 molar solution is behaving like 0.1 molar, then what will be the case of 1 molar solution, which means 1 mole. If 1 mole is present, okay, if 1 mole is present, so what could be the result? Then what will I do? I'll just cross multiply, right? So I'll write it as x. So what is x? X is equal to 1 into 0.1 divided by 2, which is equal to 0.1 by 2. Now just listen. See, this is the observed concentration. Can I call it as observed concentration? Yes. And divided by, why I am calling 0.1 as observed concentration? Because I took 2 molar solution, but how did it behave? It behaved like a 1 molar solution, right? 0.1 molar solution. So 0.1 molar or 0.1 moles is the observed concentration. But what is my actual concentration? My actual concentration is 2 molar, right? So the 2 I can write it as, it is the actual concentration. Okay, now I'll get a value. Okay, when I divide it, I'm going to get a value 0.1 by 2. Now this value, no, I'll call this x as gamma. This is called as activity coefficient. Basically this value, right, 0.1 by 2. Now 0.1 is basically the observed concentration. The observed concentration is written in terms of A. That is observed concentration, that is activity. See how much is active. I took 2 molar solution, but is all the ions actively producing the current? No, all ions are not actively producing the current. Some ions are involved in electrostatic force of attraction. They are not moving at all. So even though I took a lot of ions in my solution, not all ions are active. Okay, it can be like, if you have a class, okay, if you have a class of say 100 students, okay, say 100 students, I say like 1 2 3 4 5 students in a row. Okay, there is going to be a lot of lot of rows, a lot of students are going to sit. If there is a teacher, now if the teacher asks some question, it is mostly expected, right, the first benchers will be answering with a lot of enthusiasm, whereas the last benchers or those subsequently sitting, no, some might be doing something else. So those who are present in the first bench are going to be very much attentive. They have to be attentive. They don't have any other goal. So the first benchers will have to be very much attentive, and those sitting far away from the teacher, they can do something else also, okay, under the teacher's nose. So in that case, what can I tell you? See, this class is a class of 100 students. Now what will the teacher expect? The teacher will expect all 100 students to be active, all 100 students to respond. But if the teacher is asking a question, there is only 5 students who are raising their hands and responding, which means the expected activity, okay, the expected activity is 100. But what is the observed activity? The observed activity is just 5. The same case, I have a lot of ions here, so I will expect a lot of current to be produced. But what is happening? What is happening is that even though I'm having a lot of ions, some ions are getting involved in attracting themselves, okay. So there is no much activity that they are showing. So the observed activity is less than the actual activity, or the observed concentration is less than the actual concentration. So that observed concentration, no, I'm calling it as activity. In a class of 100 students, how many are active? In a class of 100 students, 5 are active. Similarly, in a solution, 2 molar solution, how many moles are active? In a 2 molar solution, only 0.1 moles are active. So that is activity. Now what is the actual concentration? What is the actual strength of the class? That is 100, right? Similarly, here the actual concentration is 2. So I'll write it as A divided by actual concentration is written by the symbol C. C is for concentration. So this term, no, we call it as gamma. So if I have to summarize, gamma is equal to A by C, wherein gamma is the activity coefficient. Okay, activity coefficient. Now what is A? A is the activity. And what is C? C is the concentration. This is what is the definition. So gamma is equal to A by C. Now here in case of, so now I can divide the solutions into 2 types. Okay, divide the solution into 2 types. One is going to be an ideal solution. The other one is going to be a non-ideal solution. Okay, non-ideal solution. Now the first scenario, right, the first scenario that we took is an example of ideal solution. Why? Because whatever is expected is produced over here. 0.1 mole is producing 0.1 ampere, which means whatever I required, I got it. Here I have 2 molal, okay, but it is producing only 0.1 ampere. So the first case, whatever is expected is produced, right? So first case I can call it as ideal. In first case, if I say A is equal to, gamma is equal to, if I write it as gamma is equal to A by C. Now this is the second case, non-ideal, where the activity is actually less than the concentration. Gamma is equal to A by C. Now just check, in the first case, no, activity and concentration are equal, right? A is equal to C. Why is A equal to C? Because whatever the concentration I took and whatever the activity I am observing is same, because all ions are going to move. There is no strong force of attraction between the ions. So all ions are independent of each other and they are going to migrate and produce the current. So in first case, my expected value is equal to the actual value. So I can say A is equal to C, right? A is equal to C. Now if A is equal to C, then what is gamma? If gamma should be equal to 1. Okay, the coefficient is equal to 1. Or you can say gamma is equal to 1. The coefficient is 1, therefore A is equal to C. Now here, no, here what is happening? Just see the second case. In the second case, the value of A is less than that of C, right? Activity is less than the actual concentration. So I can write it as A is less than C. If A is less than C, what it means? Gamma is less than 1. Obvious fact, right? If the numerator is going to be lesser, obviously the value is going to be less than 1. Okay. Thereby, to conclude, no, what can we conclude? In case which solution is behaving ideally? Dilute solution, that is the first case. In case of dilute solution, whatever the activity that you expect for the given concentration is going to be produced 100%. Whereas in case of a concentrated solution, the activity that is expected, the expected value and the actual value will have a huge difference. Now the reason behind this is, why is non-ideal? Because of strong force of attraction. And why is it ideal? Because of ionic mobility. So here ionic mobility will be hindered in non-ideal case. Here ionic mobility is high. The ions are not attracted towards one another and they are free to move and produce the current. Okay. So this is the concept of activity and activity coefficient. So here you need to know what is gamma, A and C. Okay. For ideal case, what is going to be gamma? For real case, what is going to be gamma? For ideal case, gamma is equal to 1. For real case, gamma is less than 1. In case of ideal case, we will find it in dilute solution. Real case is found in concentrated solution. Okay, now the next thing that we are going to discuss is, we are going to derive a formula, okay, for finding out the activity in terms of activity coefficient and molality. Now we can write it as, see, if I have a salt, okay, if I have a salt, let me call the salt as AXBY. Now if I have this salt and I am dissociating this salt, how will it get dissociated? There is going to be X moles of AY plus. Similarly, there is going to be Y moles of B X minus. How do we write it? Like if we have a salt like in real terms Al2SO4 thrice aluminium sulfate. Now if I am asking you to dissociate it, how will you dissociate it? See, there are 2 aluminium ions, right? Which means there are 2 moles of aluminium. And what is the charge of aluminium? You see over here, the charge is 3 plus. Similarly, how many moles of SO4 is there? Sulfate, there are 3 moles of SO4 and the charge of one SO4 you will see over here, that is 2 minus. The same thing we have done. There are X moles of A, the charge of A is Y plus, since the first part is a cation. There are Y moles of B, the charge of B is X minus. Okay. So I have taken a salt and I have split it. Now if I am asking you to write the value of K equilibrium, we have learned this, right? If you want to write the K equilibrium, how will you basically write it? You will write it as Al3 plus concentration rise to the power 2. And similarly, you will write it as SO4 2 minus rise to the power 3 and so on, right? The same manner, and then you have solid, okay? You will write it as Al2 SO4 thrice the concentration. Now the same manner I am asking you to write the activity. See, activity and concentration are one and the same, right? Activity and concentration, technically speaking, they mean the same. Then why do we have different terms? Because in case of real solution, the expected value of concentration or the effective concentration and the actual concentration are not the same. That's why. So if I am asking you to tell me the activity of this salt AXBY, how can we write the activity of this salt? Activity is concentration, right? So for this salt, what is going to be the concentration? The concentration is nothing but activity of A y plus rise to the power x, just like how we do here, rise to the power 2 we do, right? The same manner, rise to the power x multiplied by the activity of Bx minus rise to the power y. Now we know that just now we derived, what did we derive? We derived that activity is equal to, we derived like gamma is equal to activity by concentration. Then what is activity? Activity is equal to gamma into C. Here concentration is talked in terms of molality. Okay, concentration is talked in terms of molality. Then I can write it as A is equal to gamma into M. A is equal to gamma into M. Can I substitute it over here? Like I can substitute, right? Now to simplify it, no, I will just call, since there is a lot of variables, I'll call AY plus. Okay, as just positive charge, A plus, I'll call it as positive. Similarly, Bx minus, let me call it as negative charge. Okay, so then I can put it as activity of the cation. Okay, this is the cation, right? This is the cation, and this part, no, this part is called as anion, because in every step if we have to write it, it's going to be too lengthy. So let me write it as cation power x into activity of anion power y. Okay, so here I'll put it as cation, and this is the anion part. Now can I substitute the value of activity, that is gamma into M, right? So I can write it as activity of cation is gamma of cation into molality of cation power x. Similarly, activity of anion can be written as gamma of anion into molality of the anion power y. Now what can I do? Now here, no, we have this molality of cation and molality of anion. Okay, now I'll give you a simple example. Like if we have 0.1 moles of Na2SO4. Okay, if we have 0.1 molar, okay, I'll say 0.1 molar Na2SO4. Okay, now if I have to write it, okay, if I have to split this Na2SO4, how will I split it? I'll split it as 2 Na plus SO4 2 minus, right? Now the concentration of the salt is 0.1. Now if I have to find the concentration of the cation M plus, now how will I find it out? 2 into 0.1. I'll write it as 2 into 0.1. This 0.1 is the M value, and M plus, the value of cation, is the coefficient multiplied by this value. Similarly, M minus, what will we write M minus as? The actual concentration of the salt, that is 0.1 multiplied by this coefficient 1. This is how we do it usually, right? 0.1 multiplied by 1. So I can simplify it as the molality of the cation is going to be the coefficient of the cation. In this case, what is the coefficient of cation? The coefficient of cation is x. Can you see here? So x into actual value M. Similarly, the molality of anion will be, what is the coefficient of anion? It's y. So y into M. See, whenever we have the concentration of the salt, and if you want to find out the concentration of the cation, what you do is that you multiply it by number of moles, because you have 2 moles of Na plus, so you multiply it by 2. Similarly, you have x moles of this cation, so you multiply it by this. So I can substitute it, right? What can I substitute? I can write it as gamma plus. Instead of M plus, I can write it as x into M power x. Similarly, I can write it as gamma minus. Instead of M minus, I can write it as y into M power y. Now let me separate some terms, okay. Now what can be done is that I'll take out this coefficient part separately. Here you have x power x, okay, and here you have y power y. So I'll write it as x power x into y power y. And what do I have in the bracket? I have gamma plus into M power x. Similarly, multiplied by gamma minus into m power y. Now you just check, this two are gamma, right? Why is it plus and minus? Is just indicating the cation and anion. This is also gamma, this is also gamma. Now I can write it as x power x, y power y. If the base is common, we add the exponents, right? So we can write it as gamma plus minus. This plus and minus, you can combine it and write it as gamma plus minus into m, the whole power x plus y. This is the value of activity of a salt AXBY. Okay, this is the value that we need to know. Okay, we have derived the activity in terms of activity coefficient and molality. Now it's very important to understand the terms. Okay, this gamma plus minus, no, we call it as mean activity coefficient. Gamma plus minus is called as mean activity coefficient. What is that mean activity coefficient? Gamma plus is activity coefficient of cation. Gamma minus is activity coefficient of anion. So gamma plus minus is the mean value. Okay. And m is nothing but the molality of the solution. M is the molality of solution. Similarly, x and y. What are x and y? X is nothing but the coefficient of the cation, and y is equal to the coefficient of anion. That's all. Now let's take a simple example and understand how to apply this formula. Okay, let's say I have an example of, just take the first one, Al2SO4 thrice. I'm asking to find out the activity value. Okay, I have given you like how will you split it first? You will split it into like 2Al3 plus 3SO4 2 minus. Now can you see this 2 value? No, this is the coefficient of the cation. After splitting, you will see the coefficient. This is the coefficient of anion. So if you substitute it in the first formula here, okay, so the activity of Al2SO4 thrice is going to be equal to x power x, that is cation power cation, coefficient of cation power coefficient of cation. Similarly, what is the coefficient of anion? It's 3 power 3 into multiplied by gamma plus minus into m, the whole power 2 plus 3. So when you do this, what you get? You get 4 multiplied by 27 into gamma plus minus into m, the whole power 5. So this is going to give you 108, right? This is going to give you 108 into gamma plus minus into m, the whole power 5. Like this we find out. I hope it's clear. There is one more formula that can be derived from the same equation, okay, which is also used a lot of times. Like you see here, you have just a minute. Here, no, we have like gamma plus minus. Just see this term, gamma plus minus power x plus y. What is it? Gamma plus power x into gamma minus power y. That is also one separate formula. I'll write it over here. The formula is gamma plus minus, okay, power x plus y is equal to gamma plus power x into gamma minus power y. Okay, we can write it as a separate formula. Gamma plus minus power x plus 5 is nothing but, just go in the backward direction, gamma plus power x into gamma minus power y. Okay, now we have another one concept that is called as Debye-Huckel limiting law. Okay, how do we find? See, we are able to find out the activity. We derived the value of activity. How to find activity? That and all is fine. Molality will be given in the question. Activity we are going to find out. What about this gamma plus minus? This gamma plus minus, how will we get this value? To find out gamma plus minus, no, that is mean activity coefficient. Gamma plus minus is the mean activity coefficient. For this, we have one law which is called as the Debye-Huckel limiting law. So I'm straight away going to give you the equation and we are going to learn about the terms, okay, that are used in that. Mean activity coefficient is found out by a formula of Debye-Huckel limiting law. So the formula is very simple. The formula states that, so we have to find out mean activity coefficient. So log of gamma plus minus is equal to minus a into modulus of z plus z minus into root I. Now what is more important is to understand what these terms are. This we know, right? This we know it as mean activity coefficient. That is what we are finding out. Now a is a constant. A is a constant and its value is equal to 0.509. And one more thing is it is dependent on temperature. Okay, it depends on temperature. If the temperature is to 25 degrees Celsius, okay, then only you can put it as 0.509. That is 298 Kelvin. And Z plus Z minus. What is Z plus? Z plus is nothing but the charge of cation. Similarly, Z minus is equal to the charge of anion. And then coming to the most important part, this value, I. Here I stands for the ionic strength. I is called as the ionic strength. Now the cation's charge, anion's charge and all is fine. A is also fine, we can remember. Now what about ionic strength? Ionic strength we have to find out. Okay. So if we talk about ionic strength, it is nothing but the strength of the ions. Okay, it's the strength of the ions as the term indicates. Like if we have two solutions, I'll give you a simple example. Like if you have two solutions, I'm telling you have, let's talk in terms of molarity, okay, or we can talk in terms of molality. Like I have 1 molar calcium chloride. Similarly, on the other hand, I have 1 molar NaCl. Now, what is ionic strength is the number of ions that are present. For calcium chloride, if you split it, how will we split it? We split it as Ca2 plus 2Cl minus. NaCl is split as Na plus Cl minus. Okay. Now, just check the number of ions. Here you have 1 multiplied by 2. Okay. Here 2. So, total ions from this 1 mole of calcium chloride, total ions is equal to 3. Here what is the total ions that you get? Here you have 1 ion, here you have 1 ion. So the total ions is equal to 2. Now which will obviously have a greater ionic strength? This is going to have, both have the same concentration. But this first solution is going to have a greater ionic strength. So ionic strength basically talks about the strength of the ions. Greater the number of ions, greater is going to be the ionic strength. Now there is a formula to find out this I value. The formula is I is equal to half into summation Ci Zi square. This is the formula, half into summation Ci Zi square. I'll take some examples to explain this. Okay. Here the terms, if you have to talk about the terms, here Ci, I is the ith ion. Okay, the ion that we are talking about. Say for example any ion, ith ion. Okay. C represents the concentration of that ion and Z represents the charge of the ion. Okay, concentration of the ion and charge of the ion. Okay, let's take an example. If I say I have NaCl. Now how will we split NaCl into? NaCl is split into Na plus and Cl minus. I have 0.1 molar NaCl. Okay, I have 0.1 molar NaCl. Now which means here also you are going to get 0.1, here also you are going to get 0.1 molar. Why? Because the coefficient is 1, right? So 0.1 molar into 1, 0.1 molar into 1. Now what is the I value? I is equal to half into summation, that is you are adding both the cation and anion. First the cation. What is the cation's concentration? Concentration of cation is 0.1 into 1. So I will put it as 0.1 into charge of the cation. The charge of the cation is 1, right? So 1 square plus summation, which means you are adding. Now go to the anion. What is the concentration of anion? 0.1 into 1, which is going to be 0.1 multiplied by the charge of the anion, that is minus 1 square. Now if I solve it, what will I get? Half into 0.1 plus 0.1, right? So it's going to be 0.2 by 2, which is going to give me again 0.1. Now comes the important conclusion. See, the concentration of the salt was 0.1 and the ionic strength is also equal to 0.1. Now what can I conclude? For all univalent ions, okay, for all univalent ions, what do you mean by univalent ions? The cation's charge is also 1, the anion's charge is also 1. In that case, you will call it as univalent, okay. Cation is plus 1, anion is also plus 1. So for all univalent ions, what can I write? The concentration will be equal to the ionic strength. So you don't have to find out for every univalent ion. For every time you don't have to substitute it in the formula and check the ionic strength. Okay. So you can remember this. If they say 0.1 molar NaCl, then automatically the ionic strength is going to be 0.1. If it is going to be 0.5 molar NaCl, the ionic strength is going to be 0.5 and so on. Okay. Now let's take another example. Say for example, I have calcium chloride. Okay, I am taking the same 0.1 molar. Earlier we discussed, right, the ionic strength of calcium chloride will be greater. It will be greater than the ionic strength of NaCl. We saw here, like, we will try to prove it. Okay, so we have calcium chloride now. So we have calcium chloride. I'm going to split it. Okay, how will it split? It's going to split into Ca2 plus there are 2 chloride, right? So 2Cl minus. Now just check the concentration value. Here you have 1, right? So 1 into 0.1. This is the concentration. Here what will you do? 2 into 0.1. Okay, so this is going to be 0.1. This is going to be 0.2. Now let's substitute it in the formula. What is the formula? I is equal to half into summation of CiZi square. Okay, so that is, first you have to put the value of cation and then you have to add it with that of the anion. So if I write it, I is equal to half into, first let me write the concentration of the cation. What is the concentration of cation? It's 0.1 multiplied by the charge of the cation. It's 2 square plus, okay, this is the cation part. Now moving to the anion part. What is the concentration of anion? It's 0.2 multiplied by the charge of the anion, that is equal to minus 1 square. Now what will I get? I'll get half into, so it's going to be 4 into 0.1, which is equal to 0.4 plus 0.2. So this is 0.6 by 2, right? 0.6 by 2 is equal to 0.3. So which is equal to I. So in this case, the value of I is equal to 0.3. Can you see the concentration of ionic strength of CaCl2 is 0.3 for the same concentration. But the ionic strength of NaCl, what did we get? Ionic strength of NaCl is equal to 0.1. Okay, now what to do if we have a mixture? Okay, if we have a mixture, like we have two salts present in a mixture, then in that case, how will we find out? Say for example, I am giving you a question like calculate the ionic strength, okay, of 0.3 molar, let's say 0.3 molar calcium chloride and 0.2 molar aluminium chloride, which means we have a mixture now. The same thing we will do. How will we do it? Like we have calcium chloride. First split it. How will you split it? We will split it as Ca2 plus 2Cl minus. Similarly, if we have to split AlCl3, we will split it as Al3 plus 3Cl minus. Now find out. See here, the total concentration of the salt is 0.3, right? The 0.3 molar. So what do you get over here? This is going to be 0.3 molar and this is going to be 0.3 into 2, which is equal to 0.6 molar. Okay, here it is 0.3 into 1, which is equal to 0.3 molar. Basically, you multiply it by the coefficient. Now here what is the concentration? It is 0.2 molar, right? So here the coefficient is 1. So 1 into 0.2 molar and here it is going to be 3 into 0.2 molar. Now what do you get? Here you get 0.2 molar and here you get 0.6 molar. Now let's substitute it in the formula. What is our formula? The formula is I is equal to half into summation CiZi square. Okay, nothing is going to change. So half into, first concentration of the cation. The concentration of cation is, first cation is this one, right? Ca2 plus is one of the cations. Al3 plus is the other cation. So just see, the concentration of Ca2 plus is 0.3 multiplied by the charge of that cation, power 2, okay, square, so 2 square, plus the next cation is this, right, aluminium. What is the concentration? 0.2 multiplied by the charge of that cation to the power 2, okay, you're squaring it, CiZi square. Then next one, the concentration of the anion. Okay, here you can either take it together. This is going to be 0.6, right? It's 0.6 and 0.6, or you can put it separately also. First you can put it like this, then this. So the first one, it is going to be 0.6 multiplied by charge. Charge is minus 1 square. Again you do it the same for this, 0.6 into minus 1 square. Now if you solve this, no, what will you get? you will get the value of ionic strength. So it's going to be half into, it's going to be 1.2, it's going to be 1.8 plus 0.6 plus 0.6. So when you solve this, no, you will get, so it's going to be 1.4, sorry, 4.2, right? It's going to be 4.2 divided by 2. Then the ionic strength value is 2.1. This is how we find. Now there is another simple trick to find out this ionic strength. Okay, I'll tell you what the trick is. Every time you don't have to apply this formula. For some simple ions, no, if it is a mixture, then definitely you have to apply this formula. If it is a mixture, you have to apply this formula and find out. But for simpler salts, no, there is one more way of finding out. I'll tell you what the trick is. Okay, let's take some simple salts. Okay, NaCl, then CaCl2, then we have BaSO4, and then we have Na2SO4. These are some salts. Okay, just find out how the cation and anion is. Okay, here cation is, it is univalent, right? For univalent, we discussed I is going to be equal to C. It is Na, the cation I'll write it as A. Okay, so plus, anion is B minus, this is plus 1, this is minus 1, so A plus B minus. In the second case, what is it? A, the charge of A is going to be 2 plus, right, because calcium 2 plus, and the charge of anion is going to be minus 1. Now how will the ionic strength be? What you have to do is, you just add these two values, 2 plus 1, what is 2 plus 1? 3, right? So it's going to be 3 times the concentration. That's all. Now you see for BaSO4, the charge of cation is 2 plus. Similarly, the charge of anion is minus 2. Now don't see the sign, okay, just add the magnitude. What is the magnitude's addition? 2 plus 2 is going to be 4, right? So I is equal to 4 times C. Similarly, for Na2SO4, if I have to split Na, it's going to be, so I'll write Na as A, okay, generally. So Na as A is 2 plus, sorry, A is plus 1, Na is plus 1, right? SO4 is B. Just a minute, SO4 is B, so it's going to be minus 2. Now what will I write? I is equal to, just add the magnitude of these two. What is the magnitude? 3, right? 3C. So this is how we can find out. In case if it is a simple salt, no, you can find out like this. Say for example, if you have AlCl3, if I say the concentration of AlCl3 is 0.3 molar, okay, 0.3 molar. I am asking you to find out the ionic strength. Simply what you can do is, you can split and see. Al is 3 plus, Cl is minus 1. Add these two values, 3 and 4, it's going to be 3 plus 1 is equal to 4, right? So 4 into 0.3. So it's going to be 1.2. You can check also, okay. You can check by substituting it in the formula, half into summation Ci Zi square. Even then you will get the same value. So it will save a lot of time. So I hope you like this video. Thank you so much for watching.